Okay? Again, something else on the tire is going to be the serial, which is slide number 5. You don't really need to worry about that, but what that tells us is who the tire manufacturer is, where it was manufactured. First two were tire manufacturer, they're codes, so don't worry. The next is where it was manufactured. The next four indicate maybe the construction of the tire, but again, that's something that the manufacturer uses to identify that particular tire. The last four is probably what's important. That tire was made in the 51st week of 2007. So the last two digits are the year, 07, 2007. 51 is the serial date. That helps you know how old the tire is, and if there's a recall, then it helps identify the tires that are in the recall.
Now last show we talked about the born on date a little bit and what have you, and we talked about the from what we understood, the industry saying maybe 6 years, 7 years of tire life. What is someone from the expert? What are they saying from the actual tire manufacturer?
Our company didn't sell tires that are over 3 years old.
Wow.
So you shouldn't buy a tire that's over 3 years old. Tires tend to age, but what happens is different tires age at different rates. Heat is the enemy of tire. Ozone is the enemy of tire. Or if a tire is underinflated. So it's a 6 year tire might be perfectly good, or a 6 year tire might be a problem. What's important is, and I'll have my little tire with me, is that you need to inspect the tire. And if the tire has cracks in it, which is one of the things that might happen to an older tire, then it needs to be replaced. Certainly if you have a classic car that's 15 years old, 25 years old, it shouldn't have the original tires on it. You need to get newer tires. So, if 6 years is okay, 6 year tire might be good, it might not, but if you have a tire that's old, you need to pay attention to it and maybe have your dealer look at it, because again, if there's cracks in the sidewall that you can see, that that could be a problem. A tire in Arizona probably is going to crack more than a tire in Minnesota, just because of the ozone and the heat and the temperature.
That is an interesting point, though. With a collectible car, then the mileage really probably doesn't come into play. But if that car is being stored in the garage, 6, 10 years, they really
That's not
need.
good.
Yeah.
That's not good. And you want, again, humidity is bad for the tire too. You don't want it to be in a humid place. So if you got a classic tire, people like Coker Tire sell classic tires that are brand new.
Okay.
And you can get a tire that looks like the tire the original tire, but it's going to be a approved Department of Transportation tire that you can actually drive on the highway.
Okay,
so
that's interesting.
Yeah, don't drive around on 25-year-old tires.
Right.
Not good.
Definitely.
Not good. Okay, we'll keep going through our little tutorial. Slide 6 kind of tells us, about those numbers. The section width, see that right there? That's the width in millimeters of the tire that you can measure.
Okay.
The tread width is, again, the width of the pattern of the tread, which is basically what touches the ground.
Okay.
The section height of the tire, you can see, is shown there. And then over on the right, you see the tire mounted on a wheel, where you also pick out the outside diameter of the tire, and also something called the static loaded radius, which is, again, the radius of the tire on the vehicle. And the tire kind of puckers a little bit, so it actually is a little bit smaller than the section height, because it does pucker a little bit. So that's how we get back to explaining all those numbers and how that works. Yeah. Okay, now how does that relate to the size of the tire? How does that relate to what the tire can do? Next slide, we're going to go to number 7. This comes out of a book, Tire and Rim Standards. Tire and Rim in the United States is a body that sets standards. So no matter what tire you buy, a 205/50 R17 is going to be the same size, same dimensions, no matter what manufacturer, and they're going to be able to fit on the wheels. So we can see here pretty easily, like a 205/50 R17 is usually put on a 6.5-inch wheel. That's the section width in millimeters, the diameter in millimeters and inches, the diameter in millimeter and inches, and the approved rim width. Because you can put on certain rims. Now if we go up to a 215, that tire is a little bit wider. 10 millimeters wider in section, it goes on a little bigger rim. The section is a little bit wider, and because the section and the diameter are related by the aspect ratio, the diameter of the tire is going to be higher too. And what happens is the air in the tire supports the vehicle. The tire doesn't support the vehicle, the air does. So the more air, the bigger the air cavity, the more the tire can sustain. the higher the pressure, the more the tire can sustain. And
Very
that
interesting.
really goes, and then the question is, okay, now how much, the tire supports the load, how much load can it support? Again, depends on the size of the tire. Next slide, we go to 8. And what you show, our 205 50 R17 at 26 psi, it will support 1,058 pounds. If you go to 35 psi, it supports, looks like 1,235 pounds. So the more air you put in the tire, the more load it can support. But notice the chart only goes from 26 to 35 on P-metric tires. No tire should have less than 26 pounds of air in it. And once you go past 35 pounds, then even though the tire can support the load, it's not rated for that. It's only rated for 35 psi.
Okay.
So don't just go putting, you think you're going to have a bigger load, just don't go put more air in your
Yeah.
tire
Right.
thinking that you're going to, I can go ahead and,
That's
not a good idea.
That doesn't quite work.
right.
So all of those go together and into the tire, and it gives you, again, this is all complicated. Don't expect you all to memorize this, but this is something that your tire dealer should know and should be advised and can advise you when it comes time to repairing your tire, what you need to do. So what about this tire? We're going to skip on to 10, okay? And we're going to talk about, okay, what are some of the features of a tire? And I have a little tire section with me here. And basically, you've got the tread area, which is the part that contacts the ground. And again, it's a small, we call a footprint, a really small area that it needs to do. So there's tread rubber. We've got certain type of rubber compound to give us the traction, the wear, the handling that we need. The tread design itself is designed for snow performance, wet performance, and wear. And you can see the tread design here that
Now,
does
why
that.
all these different little, what's
Those
all
little
these
things that-
lines for you see in a tire? You got
Okay.
all these different
There's little
cuts.
stripes. All right. Oh,
there's-
which do you want first? There's lots of little
Well,
things.
it's amazing, but there's thicker ones, there's smaller ones, there's narrower ones, there are longer ones.
Yeah.
There's diamond shape, there's rectangle. Wow.
That's the tread.
Maybe turn it, yeah.
Where
turn
am
it
I going? That one.
that
There's
way.
the tread design.
Yeah.
And you can see, right, it's got lots of little things. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, these things in the middle here, these big circumferential things we call grooves. And what that does is basically evacuate the water, that the water can flow out through there. Those are called grooves in the tire, okay? These other things in the side are called slots. These, again, give you wet traction and dry traction. And these are slots. These other super narrow things are called sipes. And again, they aid in traction. And what you talk about, if you're going in the snow, we talk about biting edges. How many biting edges do you have? The more biting edges you have, the more traction you have in the snow. Also, as the tire goes through the footprint in the wet, it needs to be broken up so these pieces can contact the road and give you wet traction. So it's actually an art, and we do this.
It
We
is
do this on the
hard.
computer now.
amazing
And
art.
yeah, and in fact, in my career, I think I've got like 10 patents for tread designs.
Wow.
Everybody
Is that
kind of
right?
guards their tread design.
really? Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they guard this. So it basically form is function. We design it for a function, and then it has a certain style to it. These little bumps that stick out are called vents, and what happens is the tire goes into the mold. The tire is a solid. It goes in and is cured in a mold. It actually turns to liquid, and these little vents allow the tire to fill the mold, and the air comes out of the vents. So that's what
wow.
you see, those sticking out, and they wear off really well. These little stripes tend to identify the tire, so when the tire is sitting in a stack, you can identify the tire just by looking at the stripes instead of doing something else. Okay? So, okay,
Very
good.
interesting.
So let's go back to 10, and then